All right, guys, we are back with more content. We are back with more speaker content, obviously. I got a whole bunch of speakers here in front of me, so that means we are talking about speaker kits. These are 100% plug and play speaker kits designed for Toyota that has the factory 6x9 or like 7-inch driver in the front door. So um, I would say 90% of Toyota uses that 6x9 in the front door. So specifically 2005 to current Tacoma, 2003 to current Forerunner, 2007 to current Tundra. Um, what else do we got? We got Sequoia, 2008 Sequoia, the current uses that same speaker. And then Camrys use them. Siennas use them. There's a lot of Toyotas that utilize that 6x9, or the very new Toyota has like a 7-inch speaker, but it still is mounted into like a mount like this, which is like that 6x9 style mount. So any of those vehicles is going to be for you. Um, what we have is a 8-inch mid bass driver. So instead of that 6x9 or 7, you're getting an 8. So you're going to get a bigger speaker in your door, which means bigger performance, bigger mid bass, bigger volume, bigger vocals, just because of that bigger speaker. One of the questions that I get a lot is, well, it's an 8 versus what I have now. You're saying it's bigger. Is it going to fit? And the answer is yes. These guys will drop directly into that factory location. One of the reasons for that is it is a shallow mount speaker. So it is a shallow mount 8-inch driver. So you don't see a magnet or any motor structure back here. It's because they take all of that and they move it to the front of the speaker. That's what you see here. This kind of burnt orange looking piece is not a cone or a dust cap. This is the motor structure for the speaker. This is the magnet. It is a neodymium magnet, so that neodymium magnet is going to be a lot stronger than your traditional ferrite magnet, which is what you would see on most speakers. So you see this and think, oh, it looks kind of wimpy, or is it really going to do anything because it's so small? This same size of Neo Mag would probably be equivalent to like this size of ferrite or even bigger. So you're still going to get a lot of performance. You're going to get a lot of force out of this magnet because that neodymium is just going to be a lot stronger. So it allows them to move that forward, keep the size small, keep the mounting depth a lot more shallow, and still give you very, very good performance out of these speakers. Um, so even though it's a bigger speaker, it will drop directly into that factory location. Another reason why these fit really well is the actual opening in the door when you take the factory speaker out. It's pretty big. So there's a lot of clearance for this guy to fit in there. So you don't have to worry about cutting anything or modifying anything in there. These are just going to drop right in. The other question we get is, well, it's an 8. How much power do I need because it's an 8-inch driver? Like, I'm putting a bigger speaker in there. Um, Power is not an issue with these guys because they are a high efficiency speaker. So a higher efficiency speaker, what that means is it's going to utilize the power a lot better. So that in turn means low power. These are still going to perform very well because that higher efficiency number, they're going to utilize that power a lot better. So you don't need as much power to make these things sound as good as you would with, say, something like this with a traditional 6x9 with a massive motor, big magnet. A lot of people think, well, it's got a big magnet and a big motor, so this thing's gonna perform good in my car. Yes, but you have to give it power. If you were taking something like this and hooking it up to your factory power, you're probably gonna go backwards because you only have 10 watts, 20 watts, maybe 30 watts. This is not gonna do much on that power. You really need power to make this perform. So having a higher efficiency speaker is really where that comes into play. You can put this on factory deck power. You can put it on a factory amplified power system and get very good performance, but you can also give it a lot of power. I use these speakers in my 22 Silverado. I installed these right on the factory Bose system and they sounded great right on the Bose system. And then we redid the entire system, put big amps in, big power, but I still kept the same speakers. I run 100 watts per speaker in that Silverado, not 100 watts per set. Usually the power would be broken between the mid bass driver and the tweeter. I'm running 100 watts per speaker. So my mid bass is getting 100 watts on each side. My tweeter is getting 100 watts on each side. These things will take power if it's good, clean power and you know how to use it. these guys will take the power and you will get amazing performance out of these speakers. Uh, so, in our retail location, in our area, we have a lot of Toyota owners, predominantly Tacoma owners. So, we have been using these products for over 2 years now. I would say 90% of our installs when it comes to Toyota, this is what we use. Unless somebody comes in and says, I want like a very detailed high end sound quality system. I want 12 channels of power. I want DSP. I want to do that. Then we'll probably step up into something different. But for 99% of our customers, this has fit the bill. I have not had an unhappy customer with these speakers. Everybody has loved these things. And that's what pushed us into making these plug and play kits. Um, in our retail location, again, because we have so many Toyota owners, I've had a lot of customers come in and tell me, hey, um, I did some research and I found this company online that has a Kicker plug and play speaker kit, or Alpine or Sony or Rockford or whatever it is. Um, do you think it'll work? Can I buy it? Can you put it in? Yeah, buy it, bring it down, we'll put it in for you, and we'll see how it goes. Those kits are never plug and play. I have not seen a company online that has a plug and play speaker kit that's really plug and play. They're gonna send you a bunch of mounts. They're gonna send you a bunch of connectors. They're gonna send you your speakers with a bunch of bag of screws and things, and you gotta put it all together. You gotta put your connectors in and whatnot, and then you install it. There's nothing really wrong with that. It's just not really plug and play. So we want to give you something that's really plug and play right out of the box. Um, the other thing with that is, again, the speakers. The speakers are not designed for factory power. So you got a Kicker speaker or a Rockford speaker or whatever it is, Sony, Kenwood, and you install it. And I've had people that have been very happy with those kits. It's great. It does everything I needed to do. Cool. Awesome. Right on. But I've also had a lot of customers that say, you know what, maybe it's a little louder, but it doesn't sound great. It's got a lot of treble. I even think I've lost a little bit of mid bass. And that is true. And that's because you're taking a speaker that needs 50, 60, 70 watts, installing it in your door, but you're not giving it that power. You're only giving it a tenth of what it needs. So it's just not going to perform right. That's why you want a high efficiency speaker, especially if you're going to use that factory power. So again, that's why we use this product. That's why we created these kits. Another thing about our kits that make it a lot better than some of the other online kits is just the hardware and things that come with the kit. The mounts that you would get are just really thin, flimsy plastic mounts. I mean, you could probably see this thing flexing right now. They're not very good, especially for a big speaker. I mean, a big 6x9 on a thin, flimsy mount like this is just not right. Not only is it thin and flimsy, because it's so wide and it's so thin and it's flexible, it's going to rattle against your door. There's nothing to insulate the back of it. There's nothing to insulate the front of it. You're going to end up with a connector that's just dangling in your door that flaps around. I mean, you can zip tie it up. That's cool, Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with this. We just want to give you a more premium product that is truly plug and play. Our mounts are 3D printed in-house, so we 3D print out of ABS. All of our mounts have heat press inserts for machine screws, so all of our speakers are mounted with machine screws into these mounts. We don't just take a screw and ram it into plastic, especially on something thin like this. When you put that screw in, and I know you guys have done it, you screwed it in, and because it's so thin and you try to tighten it a lot, you stripped it, and then it just starts spinning. Because the plastic's so thin, it just doesn't have enough meat to grab. This is going to have a lot more solid bite on that screw. It's just going to make for a better mounting situation. So 3D printed. Because we 3D print our mounts, we also build all of our connectors and adapters. So we're able to print it so that the connector can press into the mount instead of having a dangling pigtail. So it presses into the mount. So it's set up like the factory speaker. The factory speaker has a spot where it plugs in. This is going to be set up exactly the same. So our mounts are going to be set up a lot more solid. Our speakers are going to come with gasket front and back. So there's a front gasket here and a rear gasket here. So the rear gasket is going to help seal it to the door better. It's going to help insulate that plastic and stop any rattle from plastic to metal. This front gasket is going to help couple this to the door panel. So when you put your door panel back on, there's always like a lip on that door panel that's designed to sit up against the speaker. And not a lot of people know that. But when you take your factory speaker off, most of them are going to have like a foam ring on there. The foam ring is there to sit up against that lip that's on the inside of your door panel. And that's designed to couple the door panel to this so that all the energy coming out of the speaker gets shot straight through the door panel rather than bleeding into the door panel. So we have a gasket applied to the front that'll do the same thing. It'll help insulate this guy. It'll help couple it to the door panel so that all of that energy goes directly out of the door panel rather than bleeding into the door, which can cause rattle, resonance in the door, plastic door panel vibrate. So this is just going to make for a lot better install and just a lot better performance when everything is done for you. Our tweeters are set up the same way. So our dash speaker, our tweeters are 3D printed mounts. We printed a cup into the mount so that the tweeter can just directly fit into that instead of having to take like the tweeter cup and put the tweeter cup in and then the metal bracket and screw it together and you got this big clunky thing when you're done. This is just ready to go, ready to drop in. Foam gasket on the front as well. So this will couple to that dash grill. Super nice. If you have a JBL equipped Toyota, some JBL Toyotas do have a 3-way set. So you have that mid-range. So we do have the add-on mid-range. If you have a JBL Toyota with 3-way, our mid-range is set up the same way. 3D printed mount, gasket on the top. Everything is ready to go. Drop it in, plug it in, and you're done. We include all of the things that you would need to install this, and there's really not much other than this because everything just plugs right in. You do have some inline crossovers that we will show you. Those are all plug and play, ready to go. The other thing that you get with our kit is you get some sound dampening materials. So you get one piece per mid-bass driver. So if you order a front set of speakers, then you'll get 2 of these, one for each speaker. These are going to install in the door behind the speakers. So if we just take this guy, for example, this goes into the door behind it. And what that's going to do is that's going to take all the energy coming off the back of this speaker and it's going to absorb into this sound dampening material rather than be reflected by that bare metal bouncing around in the door, causing a lot of resonance, causing more rattle. So this is going to help absorb that. It's going to help add a little bit more mass behind that door panel or behind that speaker. So you just have a little bit stronger area for it. Ideally, you'd want to sound dampen the whole door, but we do include this with the kit just to give you, again, a little bit more premium install. We do have pre-cut sound dampening kits for a lot of Toyota vehicles as well. Tacoma, Tundra, 4Runner, Corolla, Camry. We got a lot of pre-cut kits. So if you do buy a speaker kit, and you want to buy a sound dampening kit, we also have that as well. So with that said, I'm going to switch it over to like a top-down camera view, and then you can get a closer look of each kit and what each kit comes with so that you'll know exactly what you're getting with your kit and how it's going to work. So we'll switch you over to that right now. We'll check it out. Okay, so now that we got you on the top-down, let's just give you a quick look of the differences in hardware. So we'll take a look at like what you would normally get. Even if you buy speakers from like Crutchfield or again from any of those other quote unquote plug and play speaker kits. So you get a pretty thin, flimsy plastic mount. You can see it's not solid. It's just cut out basically. And it's got a very small surface area where your screws in. So like I was mentioning earlier, I'm pretty sure some of you have put a screw in, over tighten it, and then it just keeps spinning. A lot of times these will come with like universal brackets as well where you gotta like break tabs off and stuff. So that's not really our style. So this is our 3D printed mount. So you can see it is solid. It's got a nice recess area where our speaker fits in so we can apply our gaskets afterwards. We have heat press inserts for machine screws. Our connector is pressed into our mount. And then you would have your foam gaskets and everything on it. So it's just a lot more solid surface better for a bigger speaker. And then like your dash mount is usually just a thin piece of something, ABS or whatever, and then you got to take like the flush tweeter cup and put it in, and then the metal bracket and screw that, and you just have this big clunky thing when you're done. We 3D print it with a cup into our tweeter mount, so the tweeter just presses in. We don't need any extra hardware to mount it. Everything just fits right together, and then we put our foams, so you get a lot better mount this way for your dash speaker. From there, we can take a look at some of the kits. We'll take a look at each one individually, and you can get a better idea of what they come with. All right, so let's take a deeper look at one of our front kits here. So this is going to be for the newer Toyota style speaker, where it's like that 6x9/7-inch speaker. So you will get 2 of the 8-inch mid-bass drivers. So you can see our foam gasket applied to the front. You see our foam gasket applied to the rear. So everything will seal up nice on both sides. We have our connector pressed in. Our wiring is tucked. And then we have our connections soldered. So it's not just those regular positive and negative connectors. These are soldered, so you're never going to have to worry about that coming loose. I know some of you have installed speakers before, and a day later, hey, my speaker stopped playing in my door, and you start messing around with it, and you got to take it apart, and you realize, oh shoot, one of the connectors fell off. Well, you're not going to have to worry about that because these are all soldered together. So you will get 2 of these mid-bass drivers. You will get 2 tweeters. So again, our 3D printed mount with our tweeter pressed in. Everything is finished nice. Foam is applied. We have some Tech Flex on these wires. We'll get into this connection right after this, but you will get 2 of those tweeters there. You also have passive crossovers, so you are going to need these for the tweeters and the mid-bass driver. So it comes with 2 for the tweeters, these smaller guys here. And then you'll have 2 of these bigger ones. These are for the mid-bass drivers. You will get 2 bags of these little foam pads. So there's adhesive on one side and foam on the other. And we'll also show you what those are for. And then when we pop that out, we have our 2 squares of sound dampening to be installed behind the mid-bass driver. So you get everything you need in this one kit for your front speakers. So as far as these passive crossovers and these tweeters and mid-bass drivers, so when we look at this, we just have like a 2-pin Molex plug. It's not going to match the Toyota plug. And there's a reason why we do that. So on our tweeter crossover, we pop this guy out of the bag. Factory Toyota plug. This will plug into your dash connector. And then on this end, we have that same 2-pin Molex. You just plug your tweeter in, plug that into your dash, and you're done. Tweeter's ready to install. The reason why we do this is we want our kits to be a little bit more universal and easily expandable with our other products. So we do offer a complete DSP and amplification system as well. Fully plug and play amplifier with DSP. And if you ever wanted to upgrade to that, you're not going to need these crossovers anymore. So this guy will come off. With our DSP amp kit, you'll have a separate wire for the tweeter that'll run up and it'll match this plug and that'll plug right in. So that's why we have that set up that way. As far as the crossovers for the mid-bass drivers, so if we pop these guys open really quick. So you'll notice we have Toyota connectors on both ends. So why did we do that? Because now if you are going to use this on your factory amplifier, factory power, factory JBL amplifier, and you need this inline crossover, then you plug that in there, plug this into your factory plug. And then again, you are going to have a little bit of a pigtail. Zip tie this up to some existing wires so they're out of the way, and then you'll have that crossover. But if you ever upgrade to our DSP amp kit, you're not going to need this. So you can unplug that and just take your factory connector, plug it right into here, and you're not going to have to worry about having that crossover in line. So we give you that flexibility so that you can easily take out the passive crossovers and plug back into factory wiring or whichever way you have that set up. So that is why we do it that way. When it comes to those pigtails, that's where these foam pads come in. So because of those pigtails, and as we mentioned earlier, we don't really like that. So you can peel the backing off of this, and then you can take it and wrap it around that connector, and that's going to insulate this connector, so it's not going to flap around in your dash and rattle in your door or whatnot. You're going to have something to cover that up. So that is why we set that up that way. Again, this is for the slightly newer Toyota speaker set for the fronts, and then we will switch over to the other speaker set for the slightly older style. All right, and let's take a look at the previous generation speaker set. So again, they're very similar. Really, the only difference is the mount and the connectors. So we have our gasket on the front, just like the other set. Gasket on the rear, soldered connections, pressed in connector. Same setup with the tweeters. Exact same setup here. We have same crossover networks, again, just different connectors to match the slightly older style Toyota for the mid bass. Everything is set up exactly the same as that previous kit. You get your foam pads, you get your sound dampening material. So the only difference is just the size and shape of the mount for the mid bass drivers and the connectors that it uses. So all the same. From there, if you do have a JBL equipped Toyota that does have the mid-range, then you would get 2 of these mid-ranges as well. So 3D printed mount with our foam. We do have our wire finish nice, soldered connection, factory plug. This will plug right in. There's no need for any kind of inline crossover on this speaker because the JBL system, if it has a mid-range, the frequencies are already filtered out, so this can just plug right into that factory channel without a problem. So you will get these if you have JBL with the 3-way system. From here, we'll take a look at the rear speaker kit. All right, and then on to the rear speakers. So this is going to be the same for regardless of what generation Toyota. Most Toyotas use that 6.5-inch rear speaker. So first thing you see is your 2 pieces of sound dampening material. So you get 2 sheets of these guys, and then your 6.5-inch mid-bass driver. There's no additional hardware or anything for this because this literally just plugs right into your factory connector, mounts in, and you're done. So we have our gasket on the front, we have our gasket on the rear, our pressed connector, we have soldered connections, so no issues with connectivity. So you get 2 of the 6.5-inch mid-bass drivers, and again your 2 sheets of sound dampening. So that basically covers everything in these kits. If you guys have any questions, definitely reach out. You can either drop a comment on this video or shoot us an email at info@plugandplayaudio.com. That'll also be listed in the description. So thank you guys for watching. Again, if you have any questions, just hit us up and we will get you guys all squared away. Thank you.